Let's talk about the U.S. consumer. Over the last 3 to 6 months, there's been much attention about absolute levels of credit card debt, spelling doom for the U.S. consumer. Many economists watch the U.S. consumer because 70% of our economic activity, our GDP, is based on you and I and our friends and family and everyone that we know going out and spending money. So many economists watch the U.S. consumer, the health of the U.S. consumer, to predict what happens next with the economy. Now, I hope to provide context in this video. It goes beyond sensational headlines designed to make you feel worse about absolute levels of credit card debt. There is nuance to all of this. So I'm going to share some graphs from JP Morgan that are as of the end of September, and hopefully we can share the entire picture of the U.S. consumer. So let's look at the consumer balance sheet. And what gets most of the attention is what people owe. So think mortgages, credit card debt, personal loans, auto loans. And that's right here under the liability side. And you can see the bulk of what people owe is their mortgage. That's the biggest ticket item most U.S. consumers will purchase in their lifetime. What's often ignored with a lot of these articles is the asset side of the balance sheet. So while debt might have grown, the asset side has also grown. Think the price of your house, the 401k balance, an IRA balance, a brokerage balance, the cash in your bank account. So you can't look at what people owe without also looking at what they own. And you can see the asset side dwarfs what people owe, which this is just a snapshot of the U.S. consumer. Some people might be doing better, some people might be doing worse, but this is a good summary of where we're at on the consumer balance sheet side. Now, I know the $1 trillion number in credit card debt gets a lot of attention. However, a better way to look at this is the household debt service ratio, which is simply debt payments every month or year as a percent of your personal income. Okay, so how big of a burden are your debt payments on your disposable personal income? And you can see the lower the number, the better. And this is where we're at the end of the third quarter of 2023, about 9.9%. Okay, so people are spending 9.9% of their disposable personal income to service debt. That could be credit card, that could be personal loans, auto loans. This has steadily gone down since the fourth quarter of 2007. And you can see this drop and then this spike here, which kind of makes sense when you take into account inflation has gone up, meaning goods are costing more, borrowing costs have gone up. So it makes sense that higher interest rates, higher prices would cause this ratio to go up. But certainly when you zoom out over the last 40 some odd years, this is at a manageable level. Now let's look at late payments. Okay, so balances that are delinquent 30 plus days, meaning someone hasn't paid their auto loan here in blue or their credit card in 30 or more days. And you can see there is a troublesome spike here from about 4.5% up to just shy of 8% for both of these metrics. Now, this trend is not good, so I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But again, when you look at these levels over the past 20 years, if you were to draw a median line or an average line through these blue and gray lines, this would be a manageable level, but certainly you wouldn't want to see this go much higher. Now let's look at consumer saving and borrowing trends. So this is the personal savings rate as a percent of disposable income. So this is kind of the opposite of the debt service rate, where instead of paying down debt, we're tracking personal savings. So how much are people putting away each month or year as a percent of their disposable personal income? You can see the average percentage is about 8.6%, and we're currently at about 5%. So people are saving a bit less. And again, that comes back to inflation, higher cost of borrowing. People are able to save less because goods are costing more, gas is more, it costs more to borrow money. Now let's look at household excess savings. So what people basically have in the bank to soften a job loss or an economic slowdown or a wage cut, let's say. So peak excess savings back in, call it fall of 2021, when the government was literally dropping money in our bank accounts, hit 2.3 trillion. As the economy has opened back up, people are out spending money. Again, inflation and higher interest rates are a thing. So this has dwindled down to 1.1 trillion, and that does jive with this personal savings rate going down. So that solidifies what we saw in this last graph. Lastly, I want to talk about revolving consumer credit outstanding. So think credit card debt as a percent of disposable income. Again, this has steadily gone down since 2000. It's at a manageable level if we were to draw a median line through this bar over the last 20 years. It has spiked up for the reasons that I mentioned: higher inflation, higher borrowing costs. But all in all, when you take into account both sides of the balance sheet, the asset side and the liability side, when you take into account debt service payments as a percent of income, all of these levels are reasonable. Now, certainly the delinquency 30 plus days on credit card and auto loans are a worrisome sign. That's a trend to watch. But all in all, for the US consumer, it's not as dire as people talk about in the media. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.